The Denver Nuggets get a great win over the Indiana Pacers, and why I think that's an important part of the story for the rest of the year. How do they continue to find cohesion and unity in beating some of the better teams in the league? But also, what are some of the takeaways that we can take from having Zeke Nnaji really, truly included in the rotation? Because I actually think that is going to be a very important storyline for the rest of the year and establishing a true playoff rotation. Y'all know what time it is. This is Swiper. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every single day. Shout out to y'all. Grateful to see y'all again, man. We have had a lot of NBA stuff happening since the All-Star break. This has been a very, very, very interesting stretch of games for the Denver Nuggets. They look like world beaters. They had won 9 straight games, granted, versus lower tier competition, but earlier this year, that same Denver Nuggets team that would lose to the Blazers, that would lose to the Washington Wizards, they would have hit that 40-20 mark weeks ago. But they just weren't able to take care of business in some very select games, even the Bulls game. And the Nuggets were rounding into form, and I actually still think, for many reasons, that the 9-game win streak is important. One, because you really wanted to establish some real chemistry and culture amongst your own team. You wanted to get the winning vibes back where they needed to be. You wanted to be at the top of the league. They had the longest win streak in the NBA. And on top of this, too, because they were so dominant, they got a chance to get Jokic rest in multiple fourth quarters after carrying an insane load for the first part of the year, which Jokic was playing basically 37, 38 minutes per game. And over the course of that 9-game win streak, you really got a chance to get his numbers down for at least a little while. And I think that's significant for the greater stretch of the season. But there's also something else, y'all. I think that the Lakers game is a good reminder, not just that there's levels in the NBA, but also because you know what? If you don't play your best, you will get caught. And a team will catch you in a very loud, physical, and aggressive way. And the Lakers game served as a nice little reminder that, you know what, even if you've beaten this team to breaks for the last 3 years, you still want to make sure that you're always ready to play versus any opponent that steps on the court. And I think that Pacers game was a good reminder of that. You know, I really do hope for Denver Nuggets fans and for people that have watched this team, I truly hope people really, truly consider how good the Indiana Pacers have been as of late. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA since the start of January. And I have talked about the Pacers several times on multiple other platforms because people really need to be paying attention to how good they have been, but also they have a very unique personnel. They got a bunch of athletes, a very long team, a team that can get after you in a lot of ways. You know, prior to last night's game versus Denver, the Patriots had the 5th best offense in the NBA, and they had the 8th best defense in the NBA since January 1st. That is a long stretch of basketball. And the Nuggets, they did their job. They were able to take care of business, y'all. Since January 1st, the Denver Nuggets are 20-7. They're 20-7. That's important because the Nuggets couldn't catch wins if they fell out of a boat for the large stretch of the year, and they looked like they were struggling through everything. And on the season now, the Nuggets have continued to creep up in net rating since January 1st. The Nuggets are still number 1 in wins in the NBA. The Nuggets have only lost 7 games. They had a plus 8.6 net rating over the course of that stretch as well. The 13th best defense, but they got the number 2 ranked offense in the NBA since the start of the new year. And I think as the Nuggets continue to play games, to find cohesion, find chemistry, this Eastern Conference stretch is going to be really important for the team truly figuring out what exactly its ceiling is. And I think that's been probably my biggest issue with the team so far this year, is that they play at a very high ceiling at times. But when they play at their floor, they can get beat by anybody. And I think that is exactly what the Nuggets are, in contrast from the Lakers game, which they were woefully unprepared, to the Pacers game, in which they knew that in order to beat a good team, they had to make sure they stepped up and took care of the basketball, which they still had a good amount of turnovers, but really to make sure they're locked in and playing an aggressive style of defense, which they did. Now, the Nuggets, they had 19 turnovers yesterday versus the Indiana Pacers. That's also been a big story this year in that they have just not been the team that takes care of the ball like they should this year. But again, now some of that is because they're creating more shot opportunities than any other team in the league. And so because you're passing the ball so much, you're going to leave a lot to be desired on the court. And that means sometimes you're going to turn the ball over more than what you would like. But overall, the Nuggets, they played well yesterday. Nikola Jokic, while he was on the court, the Denver Nuggets had a 124.7 offensive rating, and he had a 104.7 defensive rating when he was on the court yesterday as well. That's a plus 20 net rating. That's a dominant performance from your best player. Aaron Gordon was spectacular yesterday, y'all. He only played 23 minutes, a 124 offensive rating, and a 102 defensive rating when he was on the court. And then Jamal Murray, man, 33 minutes yesterday, 125 offensive rating on the court, and then a 98.6 defensive rating when he was on the court. So basically, between the second unit and between the starters, man, really the Jokic minutes, Jamal Murray played an excellent game yesterday. It made a true difference overall in the play style. And I think that is something that I want to continue to see go on over the rest of the year, because it's not just about stat lines and wins and losses. It's how the team is performing when the best players are on the court, and notably when Jamal is on the court. Like yesterday, Jamal didn't have like a crazy stat line. Not at all. 16 points, 6 assists, but he was 6 of 12 from the field and 4 of 4 from 3. And if you watched how Jamal has played lately, teams are guarding him differently, and they're trying to guard Jokic in a very particular way based on how he is playing. But now, because Jamal Murray is playing so amazing, again, on the year, think about where he was. Think about where Jamal Murray was just a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago. Jamal Murray on the year now is averaging 21.1 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 6.1 assists, 1.4 steals. He's shooting 48, 40, 87 on the year. 48, 40, and 87 on the year. That is excellent. And if you saw yesterday's game at all, he's shooting the three-point shot right now with extreme confidence. Extreme confidence. He looks like a different player. He's playing within himself. He's being aggressive. He's getting his teammates involved. And all of those things are making it to where the Nuggets, come playoff time, are going to be a different team. Now, they still have levels that they need to get to. I mean, if you ask me, there are things they need to continue to improve upon and get better in as a team, especially when it comes to the defensive end. And the biggest story this year of their defense, I asked this question on Twitter yesterday. Why is it that the Nuggets are not as good as they were last year? If you remember, there was a large stretch of the year where the Nuggets were a top 5 defense. And then they finished the year as number 8 overall defense in the NBA. So what happened? What were the things that changed from then to now that made their defense this much worse? Now, the easy solution for that is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope not being here. I think that not having a maestro defensively on the roster has absolutely affected everyone else. But I think some of this other part of this is Aaron Gordon's calf injury. Because Aaron Gordon, for so many games and for so long, and really since March 25th of 2021 when he became a different Nugget, he's been a stabilizer for them defensively. But since he's been in this place where he's not been able to move effectively, and it's affected even in his all-ball awareness, because of all those factors, the Nuggets defense has suffered as Aaron Gordon has really worked his tail off to try to get back. And we're going to talk about Aaron Gordon on the other side too, because I do think there's some really notable things about AG's play that are making a big difference this year. But overall, I do think that as the Aaron Gordon gets healthier, as Christian Brown continues to figure out his role, when Peyton Watson comes back, their defense will be better. Their defense will improve as the course of the season goes on, because it has to. Unless the Nuggets just want to fold and they want to say, well, we're going to be a second-round team this year, which they very well could be, then they have to make real significant improvements in how they're executing on the defensive end. And that's going to be up to them. That's going to be up to their effort. That's going to be up to Malone. That's going to be up to the players to execute their defensive scheme. On the other side, y'all, I'm going to talk about why this East Coast trip is so important and what can we take away versus the Bucks, versus the Pistons, versus the Celtics, all playoff teams in the Eastern Conference, and how can the Denver Nuggets on the other side of this road trip re-solidify themselves as true contenders in this league. We're going to talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Now, here's a few ways you can take advantage of this deal. Game day feast. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. Lunch on the go. You need a quick and easy lunch the next day with Dash Pass. You get your favorite meals with $0 in delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Now, make sure you're tapping in because you're planning to catch the next game. Order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight right after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. We'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Welcome back to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every single day. Y'all, make sure on the YouTube side, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, y'all. The community on YouTube is going up. Locked On Nuggets is soaring. We have so many people that have joined the Locked On Nuggets family. And y'all, we're close. We're getting closer and closer. We have over 9.14 thousand subscribers. We're going to get to 10,000 subscribers here at Locked On Nuggets this year. And if you're listening to this on the audio side, make sure you give us a 5-star review, y'all. That way we can continue to grow on those great platforms of Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. But y'all, the Denver Nuggets, they're doing a lot of really good things right now. I don't want it to be lost that the Denver Nuggets are 10-1. They're 10-1 in their last 11 games. Granted, they played one true playoff team that they beat, and the other playoff team that they have beat historically that absolutely decimated them the other day. And so that's important context. But celebrate the season. Like, celebrate what they are doing. Celebrate what we are witnessing from this Nuggets team this year. And I think that as you continue to explore just how good this team has been this year, I think that there's a lot of stuff to truly be tapping into with its organization. And y'all, I want to talk about Aaron Gordon, man. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but he has made a world of a difference this year for this team. When Aaron Gordon has played this year, the Nuggets have been fantastic. He is such an important part of what they are doing on a night in, night out basis because he is a legitimate post threat. He's a legitimate three-point shooter. He's a legitimate scorer. And he's a legitimate defender. And when you're in a situation like this where you're a team that is lacking some defenders and you're lacking players that can get to the rim and create contact, Aaron Gordon is very important. This year, in 940 minutes this season, the Denver Nuggets are a plus 10.85 when Aaron Gordon is on the court. Now, when he's off, they're a plus 1.97. A lot of that's because of the variation lineup they use when they put Russell Westbrook in the game. Remember, Peyton Watson was playing for Aaron Gordon in those stretches. But AG, like, he makes a big difference. The team's 2-point percentage is better with Aaron Gordon on the court. The team's 3-point percentage is 5% better with Aaron Gordon on the court. Now, but like I said, remember what I said about the defense. The Denver Nuggets defense this year with Aaron Gordon on the court, it's 114.86. With Aaron Gordon off the court, it's a 112.74. Y'all, That's noticeable. The Denver Nuggets offense is worse, but the Denver Nuggets defense, it's better this year with no AG. And I think some of that has to do with, obviously, the early part of the year where the team was struggling. But really, a lot of this speaks to the fact that Aaron Gordon is having a slippage this year in his defensive value, which, as you know, if there's not going to be KCP on this roster, that cannot be a thing. Aaron Gordon has to, and I mean has to, play well on the defensive end because that makes all of the difference for this team. Aaron is truly one of the most important role players in the NBA because without him, the Nuggets are just quite literally not able to function as a team without him on the basketball court. And I think that it's going to be really important, you all, that as the Nuggets are trying to figure out who they are, they're trying to figure out rotation going into the playoffs, Aaron Gordon's going to have to do it. But the good news about this is Aaron Gordon has improved just crazy as a three-point shooter this year. Did y'all know that Aaron Gordon is shooting 43% from three this year? Did you know that Aaron Gordon is shooting 79.6% from the free throw line this year? Yo, how crazy is that? How insane is it that Aaron Gordon is continuing to find ways to expand his game, and especially given that the Denver Nuggets versus the Minnesota Timberwolves last year, the Timberwolves were basically daring anybody else but Jokic and Murray to beat them. Daring anybody else but Jokic and Murray to beat them last year. And they did. And because Aaron Gordon just quite literally wasn't in a place where he could give them the offensive value on a consistent basis in that series, it cost him. And so what I love about Aaron Gordon, very similarly love about Nikola Jokic this year, is they made noticeable improvements to get better. Noticeable improvements to make up for some of the deficiencies that they had this last year. And Ken, you know this. Remember, during the NBA Finals run, Aaron Gordon was shooting free throws at a very high rate over the run. And because of that, when he did generate contact, they were still getting points, even when he did not score directly off those layups or dunk attempts. And Aaron Gordon, the more he gets into his body, the more he's able to drive, then I think that's just going to aid them as the season goes on because they're going to play versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're going to play versus the Timberwolves. They're going to play versus the Lakers, and they're going to play versus the Clippers. They're going to play versus some really physical teams. And he is going to be a very important part of that. And generating free throws, generating contact, that's going to be a big part of the story. But again, y'all, I just want to reiterate the defensive thing. Do you know of everybody in the rotation? Peyton Watson is graded out as per EPM as the best defender on the team, which I think even outside of EPM is just inherently true. I think he's been the best defender on the team this year. Y'all, Aaron Gordon is grading out as the fourth worst defender in the rotation. So Julian Strother is last. Hunter Tyson is next. And Michael Porter Jr. is a minus 1.2. Aaron Gordon is tied with Jamal Murray at a minus 1.0 defensively this year. The only starters that are in the positive are Jokic and Christian Brown. And Jokic is largely there because of the rebounding and the steal numbers. His steal percentage is outrageous. Like, that's a problem, y'all. But again, the energy that he's able to contribute on the defensive end is directly making up for that. So that's why the number is so low. But y'all, in terms of just why this trip is so important, I want y'all to imagine this. I don't think they're going to go 4-0. I think that Boston game in particular, that's going to be a bit of a bloodbath. Like, they're going to have to show up because last year their defense was like at a level where they could play versus anybody and beat anybody. Could have KCP, where Christian Brown was last year, where Aaron Gordon was last year, and having Peyton Watson and Justin Holiday. They just had a bunch of players that were long, that were aggressive, and then allowed for everybody else on the roster to be able to play better. But this year, their floor is noticeably worse because they are not connected defensively enough on enough possessions in a row. I don't know where that comes from. Now, again, I do think a lot of that has been no KCP. But also some of this is just basic reads. Like, versus the Lakers game, he literally, like, you could watch and you can see nobody in the corner was focused on where their man was, and they were getting beat weak side by 3-pointers and by cuts consistently. And I'm just sitting here looking like, what? But for whatever reason, last year, even without KCP, they were paying attention to that stuff. This year, there's just been a slippage, I think, in the amount of attention to detail they're paying. But now, the other side of this is that could be because they're saving for the playoffs. We'll talk about that more on the other side here at Locked On Nuggets. Welcome back to the final segment here at Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Now, we're talking about the defensive issues that have plagued this team, but I have a solution. I have one solution for this, and his name is Zeke Nnaji. Boy, oh boy, Zeke Nnaji. Have y'all been paying attention? Have you watched? Have you seen Zeke Nnaji this year? Oh my goodness. Now, you want to talk about a player that has basically completely rewritten just how important they are to this team in a matter of a month and a half. Zeke Nnaji, man, has been great. Great as of late. Now, on the season, the net rating stuff is not going to tell the story. Do you realize that Zeke has only played 334 minutes this year? But in the minutes he's played this year, the offense hasn't been good, but the defensive rating is a 109.64. The opponent is shooting 5% worse almost from 2 with Zeke Nnaji on the court. That's a huge deal. And Zeke Nnaji, his ability to be able to switch 1 through 5, his ability to be able to play up at the level, his ability to be able to get the low man to rotate towards the rim and be big, it made a big difference as of late for this team. And I think that there's just not a lot of players that have the physical archetype of Zeke Nnaji, which is why his story as an NBA player was always going to be so interesting. Just think about it. Zeke Nnaji, y'all, is about 6'8", 6'9". He's a very athletic player. He's a big player. Zeke is listed as 6'9", 240 pounds. Okay? And y'all, last 5 games for Zeke Nnaji, he's playing pretty well. He's playing pretty well as of late. Now, the numbers are going to tell you that on the year he's not shooting super well, for sure. But y'all, if I just filter out the last 10 games for Zeke Nnaji this year, 7 points a game, 4.2 rebounds a game, 56.6% from the field, 36.8% from 3, 70% from the free throw line, a 64.5 true shooting. Zeke Nnaji, by the way, in the last 10 games, is a plus 55 in total value. A plus 55 in total value. Now, last night, he lost his minutes, but that wasn't necessarily on Zeke Nnaji. If y'all remember the Pacers game, Zeke Nnaji hit 2 jumpers. One of them was a 3. The other one, he stepped on the line. But Zeke Nnaji hit the only baskets at the top of the fourth quarter when the score was 100-83 Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets were a -7 in the non-Jokic minutes. They only scored 10 points. But he was one of the main reasons they were even still scoring and had a 10-point lead by the time Joker came back into the game. But y'all, that's why but versus the Lakers, he was a dead even in his minutes. Versus Charlotte, he was a +6. Versus the Portland Trailblazers, a +11 in both games. Versus Phoenix, he was a +8. Versus Orlando, +23. Versus the Pelicans, +16. Versus the Pelicans again, +1. Are you noticing something? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? That's a player that's trending up in the right direction. That's a player that's figuring some things out, and that's a player that Denver Nuggets need to have on their roster. And y'all, if you go in the last 9 games, he's a +72 in his minutes and shooting 39% from 3 in the last 9 games. So I want to also paint this picture for you all. If I told you the bench unit for the Denver Nuggets this year, it's going to end up being Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, Zeke Nnaji, and DeAndre Jordan. How would you feel about that? Would you feel confident in that team? Do you feel like that's enough for this team to be able to win in a playoff scenario and win in a playoff setting? Because what I actually think that this team adds with Zeke Nnaji, with Peyton Watson, that gives you two bona fide defenders coming off the bench with Russell Westbrook. And I can see a scenario because of where Zeke is. I'm getting right to that, y'all. Right to that point. Where Zeke Nnaji is getting more minutes in the playoff series than Julian Strawther is. If Zeke can hit his jumpers at a 37 to 39% clip in a playoff series, and he can give you this kind of defense that he's playing right now, Zeke could start this year off being one of the worst contracts in the NBA to being one of the most invaluable bench players in an NBA playoff setting, because you don't find 6'9" players with that kind of size that can switch and hit jumpers. All of a sudden, the story is different for Zeke Nnaji. And y'all remember, if you've heard me talk about Zeke Nnaji, I always bring up the Pacers game from the championship year when it was Jamal Murray, KCP, Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, and Zeke Nnaji going on that crazy stretch when I think they had 3 straight dunks. And Zeke Nnaji was such a big catalyst in that, because when he's able to play into his strength as a defender, he's able to do so many things. And he makes up for some of the deficiencies they have. And if you get in a situation, right, let's say Jamal Murray is cooking, Nikola Jokic is cooking, but you need a player that's going to defend. You need a player that's going to rebound. And you need someone that can hit a jumper. I think Zeke Nnaji is one of those players you can put in that lineup. Aaron Gordon, Zeke Nnaji, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown. Now you have 4 legitimate defenders that you can insert, including Peyton Watson, that you could put into the game and say, all right, bet. We're able to at least deploy you with some idea of what it is you're going to bring to the table. And all of a sudden, I still think the Nuggets are missing one other player. I think that having Justin Hall on its roster would be very helpful for many different reasons. But I do think Zeke being able to play is going to help them. Because if you just have 4 bodies off the bench that you can bring in that do different things that will help you, it gives you more options. That's why OKC is so dangerous. Cason Wallace gives them another option. Kenrich Williams gives them another option. Wiggins gives them another option. Caruso gives them another option. And then on top of that, having the starting 5 of SGA, Lou Dort, J-Dub, Chet, Ihart. So you get a chance to then add Cason, Caruso, Wiggins, and Alex Caruso off of your bench. That gives you 9 NBA players that all do really good things. And I think that's what the Nuggets need. They need 4 players off their bench they can at least go to. Now, Julian Strawther is one of the most interesting stories in the NBA this year, because he is conceptually like a really good shooter. And there's a lot of things that he should bring to the table. But you even saw last night, Julian, because he's so streaky, and again, he's young, y'all, second-year player. Because he's so streaky as a player, he's going to kind of oscillate as a shooter. This year, he's averaging 9.6 points a game. He's shooting 36.5% from 3. That's better than what he did last year when he shot 29% from 3, I believe. So he's having a much better shooting year this year. But Julian, he really can go between Julian is locked for the playoff rotation for the Denver Nuggets. And then he can have games versus the Lakers where it's like, I don't think that dude could play, period. And y'all, in the last 20 games, Julian, 34.5% from 3 on 5 attempts a game. Now, that's some of that is just like when you're young, figuring out how to play within yourself and figuring out what it is you're supposed to do and how to even get into your jump shot. Because you watch Julian when he comes off of those down screens, they try to get him even just on a flare screen. He doesn't stop his momentum when he needs to sometimes. He will fade left or right, or he'll fade back off of a down screen, and that will then throw off his 3-point shot. And Julian, once he figures out how to be a true, really good, all right, catch it, and I'm going straight up into my release, straight up and down. Once he figures that part out, that's going to aid him so much as an NBA player and make him more invaluable to the Denver Nuggets, because his offense has to be there. It has to be there. But learning how to be a defender in this league at a 6'7" guard, that's going to take time. Now, he's gotten better at stretches this year, where especially off the ball, he'll be able to get steals. But Julian's on-ball defense is going to be tested. Luka Doncic, LeBron James, 100%. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 100%. Anthony Edwards, 100%. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, if they see them, 100%. They're all going to be there, and they're all going to be looking at Julian Strawther and saying, barbecue chicken. But it's up to Julian, and it's up to the Denver Nuggets behind Julian defensively to be able to figure out, okay, how do we best put you in an optimized situation? But I think the rotation is 9 deep now. And I think that's a big, big storyline for the Denver Nuggets this season. Y'all, we'll have more for you tomorrow morning with Matt Moore and Ryan Blackmore. We'll be back with you. I'll be back with you, Swiper Gang, on Thursday to talk after the Milwaukee Bucks game. And then we'll also be heading into the Detroit Pistons game. And then this weekend, getting ready for the Boston Celtics. Y'all know what time it is, Swiper Gang. Y'all know what time it is, Locked On Nuggets community. See you on the other side.